The title of this video is How to Give Feedback. The reason I gave this topic some air is because in the Australian culture, feedback isn't something that Aussies do very often. And as I previously mentioned, there are some cultural differences. For example, in America, they often get daily feedback from their boss. They work, they go and ask their boss for feedback. How can I improve? On a daily basis. I've worked with American engineers when they've come to Australia. They don't hear anything from their boss. And they work harder and harder and harder and get stressed till finally they realise that Aussies generally only do it at the annual performance review. Okay? And if you hear from an Aussie, if you hear from your boss, can I give you some feedback? Most people will think, oh, what have I done? I'm in for it now. Okay? So you need to understand that there are cultural differences with respect to feedback. If an Aussie asks an American, can I give you some feedback? More likely the answer will be, finally. I've been waiting for this. So you need to appreciate those differences because it's important. Here's a simple frame of some steps to give some feedback. Number one, ask the person if it's a good time to give them feedback. They may not be able to take anything on board because they're stressed. So wait. Unless it's absolutely urgent, wait. Wait until it's a good time. Schedule a time. Step two, describe the behaviour that you want changed. Well, you'd only want it changed if it was negative. Describe the behaviour observed and describe the effects of it. So those two steps really go together. Then you've got two options. First, that's great. Say something positive, recognise that the behaviour is great. Or step two, is that something you can do different? Ask for change. This is a simple 4 steps to give somebody feedback. It's really very effective. Keep it in mind. The way to improve is to talk to the pros. Get them to observe your game. Any golfer knows that the way to improve is to get a pro to watch your swing and to suggest biomechanical changes. And there's lots of software out there now to analyse your swing and try and get that perfect 2-dimensional swing. You only really improve to the standard of feedback you're getting. If you get poor quality feedback, you're not going to improve. If you're new in an organisation, you've got to embrace your newbie status. Figure out who you'd really want feedback from in the organisation and say to them, I'm just new here. Can I get some feedback from you at some stage on how you think I'm going? Okay? When you're new, you can just wander around, ask anybody questions. There's no established relationship. You've got to really take advantage of that, particularly if you're on a work placement. Always embrace your newbie status, because once that's finished, people will have certain expectations about who's going to talk to who and how the organisation's going to operate. But you can only improve to the quality of your feedback. If you're not getting feedback from anywhere, well, do you think you're going to improve? Now, in terms of culture, if you only give negative feedback, people will always expect negative feedback. So you've got to sometimes give positive feedback, but don't use the so-called PIP sandwich. Positive, point for improvement, and positive. People now expect that. So if you give someone positive feedback, sometimes people now will think, oh, they've really got something bad to say to me. So you need to be careful about how repetitive you are in the way that you give feedback. Make it short and snappy, no more than 3 things. You may have 10 things that you want to change. Just slowly deal with them. Prioritise them, and then slowly step through what you need people to do. When something's happened, think about what was the plan, what happened, why did it happen, and what can we learn? And be constantly reflecting on that and feeding that back through to your people. The more feedback you get, the more you can improve as an individual, but also as a team. The US military found that after an operational incident, that if they took soldiers and asked them, why did you do that? The soldiers found it very confrontational. They felt that they were being blamed. They found that it was much more effective to ask what questions. What made you think that? What did you believe was happening when you did that? What were your expectations? So moving away from why is important, particularly where there's great power imbalance between the people having the conversation. If somebody is blamed, they won't share their mistake. And if they don't share their mistake, similar to negative results in publications, the organisation can't learn. So try and have a no-blame culture. However, on the other side of the coin, individuals are still accountable based on negative consequences. If something goes wrong and you had a hand in it, you're still going to get fired, depending on its severity. So there's the balance of trying to improve the organisation against individuals being accountable for their performance. They're a tricky thing to balance as a manager. Finally, peer review is a good way to get feedback. The more you trust them, the better their feedback is going to be. They may have a great deal of expertise that they can reflect on your design and give you some feedback around that. They can also help you if they've got the capacity to do so. So try and build that culture in around you. Don't just be there focused on the job, because you can really be learning a lot from other people and improving your effectiveness and efficiency. Finally, recognition is very important. Actually observing when somebody has changed their behaviour, taken a step and seeing what difference it makes and reflecting on that. Don't just be going in as a manager, hammering somebody, then making a change and then not saying anything about it. You've got to give credit where due.